Contrary no, declare that carried. Go straight to the item now, and that's item 8, Kia Pukekohe, Unlock Pukekohe High-Level Project Plan, and we have Richard Davison, who's the Program Manager, doing amazing things down there, and Brenna Waghorn, who's Director of Strategy at Panuku. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. We're really delighted to bring you the high-level project plan for Kia Pukekohe Unlock Pukekohe. You'll remember that back in November last year, Pukekohe was changed from a support project to an unlock as part of the Panuku program, and the first step in that process is the development of the high-level project plan. You've just heard that we've worked closely with the Franklin Local Board, with Mana Whenua and with others to produce the plan, and Richard gave you a full detailed overview of it at a workshop recently. I'll just hand over to Richard now for a very quick 5-minute overview.
Kia ora tātou, and thank you very much for giving Pukekohe a go. We were very lucky to work with the Franklin Local Board and Andrew Baker through the area plan, which Craig and I helped lead at the back there, and that translated into the unitary plan, and now getting your support to take that a step further and facilitate it through property is really exciting to see it go through the ages and deliver all the outcomes over time. So what we've got here is, I like to call it the 12th child of Panuku. The reason for that is to give birth to each of these locations is an incredible task, an incredible process, but gives us many fruits at the end, which can only be enabled through that leverage and lever of property. And so once again, using this framework of creating locations around the city through our Transform and Unlock program is no stranger to you, and Pukekohe is the 12th of those. And this is just getting to the start line, agreeing the properties that make up the program. So thank you for that. I think Andy said it very well, is that Pukekohe is actually an awesome town already. We'd like to encourage you to go there. We know Councillor Simpson's coming out there a little bit later to do some shopping with Angela, the chair of the board. So we look forward to her coming to see the south. And I think the reason why we want you to come down there is because the growth forecast is massive. Up there are a lot of pretty colours on the page, which our colleagues at the back have also helped to prepare from Plans and Places. All the different colours show basically a lot of growth coming to Pukekohe and its surrounds, Opahiki, Drury, Pairata, and not to mention North Waikato, which has got huge growth going to Te Kaupata, Pokeno, and the surrounding villages. What we're really worried about here is, where does Pukekohe fit into this massive growth? And I guess the key word that we're using here is proactive future-proofing. It's already an awesome place. We just want to make sure it's an awesome place into the future, and using property as the way to keep this authentic, amazing Main Street that we'd like you to come and see thriving is actually absolutely our goal. And so that's why we're nodding about those strategic objectives in clause C, because without those properties getting Pukekohe to be, again, a point of difference into the future, it will be lost to what is a massive amount of growth surrounding it into the future. And I suppose our key hope is that currently 50% of people leave Pukekohe to find work. And one of the key pieces of feedback we got from all our stakeholders was they love the lifestyle that they have, but they have to go to Auckland to maintain that lifestyle. And if they can get their 2.5 hours of travel time back through some local jobs, we've actually achieved, again, that strategic objective. So proactive future-proofing and more time with the family are some of those key goals. And I suppose within that, you'll see in some attachments it's 27 properties of different sizes, shapes, colours, and operational business unit managements. They have a CV of around $27 million with a total hectareage of 5.5 hectares. So it's a really great middle to large size unlock location, if you'd want to call it, in terms of comparing it to the others. And as with every location, we take time, and in this case we did it again, to agree a boundary. And when we came to you on the 9th of May, we had a boundary which we thought looked like a chicken, And today we're coming to you with the chicken having a leg on it in the last minute. And to me now it looks like the Wallace and Gromit chicken. And that's to bring in properties in the red at the very bottom, 3, 5, 6, and 7. And I wanted to take a moment to mention the significance of a boundary. So the idea is that with your endorsement and the Finance and Performance's approval, if they provide it, is that all properties within this boundary represent the potential investment envelope, subject to a range of other processes and needs and priorities. And so that's why the boundary is so incredibly important. All those properties outside of the boundary, which are now 6 properties, will be given back to the council in terms of net proceeds of sale, whereas the 21 of the 27 will stay within the unlock and transform budget for consideration for investment in Pukekohe based on the objectives of the high-level project plan. So that is how our transforms and unlock work around the region, and it's on a regional basis that funding is allocated out. So Pukekohe, as always, needs a strong plan to put up its strong needs for investment, and we're going to give back the investment of time and jobs and access to healthcare, which a range of our mana whenua stakeholders have mentioned. They could count on 2 hands the amount of times whānau have died in the car on the way to Middlemore for lack of having local healthcare or medical services in the wee hours of the morning. So we've definitely heard from our stakeholders over time, and we definitely know what we'd like to use these properties to invest into. And as Andy Baker mentioned, our key risk or management item here is that sort of the chunky, most valuable properties are 800 surface car parks made out of 8 parking parcels. Pukekohe's got 4,000 parking spaces. It's the second highest in all of our 12 locations, funnily enough after Henderson, which has 4,400. Of that, council controlled 2,000 of them, and of that, the 1,000 are the off-street car parks. You wouldn't know it, but Pukekohe has a 5-level parking building, which is only 30% utilized. It takes 2 minutes to go up the ramp, and there are pillars, so people don't like to go up there. But we're going to try and encourage them to do so and use those 150 spaces that the Franklin District Council negotiated when they got their farmers. And so it's that critical angle with Auckland Transport that we need to unlock these 800 parking spaces, but reorganize provision. It's not about losing spaces, it's about relooking at timings, promotion, campaigns, behavioral, and seeing if people can park just a little bit further away. So those are some of the things we really want to focus on over the coming year. And second to that, we've taken a much stronger approach in this project with Atid, partly because one of our key goals, number 3, is access or attraction of local jobs, again, so that people can work in their own community. And so we're going to team up with Atid to see if we can get some extra good foreign direct investment or local investment directed at Pukekohe. Because one thing that we love about Panuku is that if you have a place champion and somebody who sings from the rooftops about a location, you tend to get a lot of people to come on board with you. And so with Atid's help, I think we're going to have a good flag to wave for Pukekohe. The other partnership that we'd like to mention is Panuku have done this project very differently. When we spoke to mana whenua, they said they don't want to speak to me, they don't want to speak to Richard. They wanted to speak to our rangatira. And so we started this whole project by taking our CE Roger MacDonald to Pukekohe for the whole day. And we met iwi after iwi across the day to set this project up from the start from a rangatira to rangatira basis. And from there, we then were asked, actually they don't want to speak to Roger, they want to speak to the chair of the Panuku board. And so we took the chair of the Panuku board to Pukekohe. We didn't manage to have all the iwi relevant on that day, but they did speak to Ngāti Tiata. And they were very impressed that we've been able to start at the top and start to cascade down and work with them on the themes that they are most interested in, which are on the board there, but also taken as read in the report. And so working with mana whenua through Pukekohe, we're hoping to trial and test and explore a new way of partnering in Pukekohe using a new Panuku lens, which is going to take time, but we really think there's an opportunity here to explore a proper tikanga-based partnership framework that we could take into the future as a bit of an exemplar case study for how Panuku operates in the mana whenua space. So we're looking forward to that. And after that, we will begin as always, one of our strengths that people love about Panuku is our placemaking, which is those interim activations and events and workshops and community building, because the final goal, which is what our strategic objective is to celebrate Māori culture in Pukekohe. It is right now quite it's sort of getting older, getting richer, more Pākehā community, but there's a huge history in Pukekohe around Māori identity, and to reveal that and celebrate that in the physical places and have their face in our place in Pukekohe is something that we want to invest in as well. And that is our proposal to you, which we hope you will enjoy, to proactively future-proof, activate some local jobs, have some great walkability in town of Point of Difference, and celebrate Māori identity as our 4 strategic goals that we'd like to invest in with your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And it's enthusiastically moved. The motions are moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by the Mayor, and we'll take questions. I think we should start at the name. Can we just go over the story that supports the Te Reo Māori dual naming?
So again, taking our partnership exploration from the beginning, we were trying to work out how to sort of challenge our own jargon, if you like, unlock, transform, etc. And within that was this huge struggle around what is the identity of Pukekohe, which, funnily enough, is quite complex and has quite a dark past and has quite a lot of its roots based in the agricultural hinterland and surrounds. And so kia puawai means prosperity and to give blossom to the growth of the plants and of us. And I mean, it's a metaphor, so you can apply it to anything, but it means to prosper. So that was given to us by Ngāti Tiata, who are very primary in this area. So that we have taken that name as our new name for the location.
Questions, members. Councillor Wayne Walker?
A few questions around some possible additions. The first question just goes to the absence of any civic presence in Pukekohe. The documentation mentions the town square, but there's no acknowledgement of any civic presence and any lead around that. So I refer you to page 18 of the document, which is page 38 in our text. Outcomes, page 10 in the document. A number of references to the town square, but there's no lead around a civic presence. And the reason that I'm raising that, Mr. Chair, is Pukekohe is a huge distance away from the Aotea Centre. So if people are going to do something, if they want to congregate, they need to be able to do it in Pukekohe. The other question I've got is around the farmers market and this trial relocation to the town square, when quite obviously the town square is nowhere near large enough for the size of the market that exists now, and that market could get larger. So I have a question around that. And then as it goes to transport, it mentions buses and other things, but doesn't grasp the concept of what I would call eco-mobility that I think Auckland Transport are getting their head around, which is a whole range of things, that shared cars, shared vehicles, EVs, a whole range of things, not just conventional buses and so on. And the reason why I mention that is I'm making the assumption that if there are more cycleways that will be taking out parking spaces within the street network, then that mobility needs to have some parking for those forms of
Let's get those 3 questions
somewhere
addressed by Richard. There's
And
3 questions there, Richard.
I had one other comment that I might just make very quickly, Mr. Chair.
No, we'll just keep the questions.
Okay.
I'd like to keep it
I'll come
tight
back to
here.
it then.
3 questions there, Richard.
Thank you. Through the chair, thank you for reading the report thoroughly, because I know you have a lot to read. In terms of the civic facilities, I absolutely acknowledge your point. What we're lucky with in Pukekohe is they are blessed with quite a lot of civic facilities, 2 pools, great parks, the list goes on. And I guess that the key reason why it's not emphasized a lot is because Panuku are always very worried about putting up too much expectations. The 27 properties represent 27 million, which with all the investment ideas put together in a priority list doesn't necessarily mean the ability to invest in art centres and larger facilities or to put back money into the pool or other things, but they can all be considered subsequently as we get into a program business case. So I guess, good point. They could be mentioned more strongly, but I guess we didn't want to set too many expectations around big ticket items that must be maintained when our bucket of money isn't really that sort of scale. In terms of the town square, you're absolutely right. If you go to the key moves called placemaking, I don't have it on a page. The town square is not big enough for the relocation, so that's why we called it in one of the key moves to create a market street. So Ralston Street is this great heritage street where there's this really beautiful tree right on the intersection of the lane and the square. We aim to actually turn the farmers market into like a linear market, which goes from the town square all the way along Ralston Street, because you're right, it is a very large market and it could even get bigger and better quality as well. So we would like to shut down the street on a Saturday to allow for that and extend it all the way through. In fact, the supplier of that market would like it to happen on King Street, which we would like to consider as well. The third item, again, being cautious around language with Auckland Transport, who is the controlling authority of the road corridor. We have absolutely mentioned several times exploring active transport modes and walking and cycling, but they're all subject to options and investigations. But of course, the key thing in Pukekohe is to look at those roundabout intersections, which are quite difficult to cross, and allowing all of that to happen for prams, cycling, eco-mobility, micro-mobility, and elderly universal access requirements is absolutely something we're focused on achieving. So hopefully that answers the questions.
Those changes then.
Member Namani, please.
Kia ora. Thank you for your report. It's good to see that there's a bit of an exploration happening here around a co-designed approach with mana whenua and Māori, and I heard in your presentation talking about you hope that there'll be some learnings out of this, perhaps some exemplar practices or approaches, and I was just wondering, and just also just of course noting we have had preliminary engagement, so we're interested in how the process unfolds, but just wondered your thinking on those learnings are going to be necessarily broader than Pukekohe, perhaps broader than Pānuku in terms of across council learnings. And I just wondered if you'd had any thinking about when you get to that stage or get to that, how that might be disseminated to the beast that is council, let alone Pānuku.
Thank you for that question. Yes, our discussions, early discussions with IMSB have indicated the opportunity to treat, the co-design and new approach as a case study and to share those learnings as we go. We haven't, there are obviously a number of fora that Panuku engage with, and through the council's forum with mana whenua, that those learnings and lessons could be shared. I think it's important to realise we're right at the beginning at this point, so we look forward to those relationships developing for Pukekohe.
Thank you, Member Namani. Just going back to the dual naming, are other unlocks, do they have dual names?
No, they haven't so far, no.
Scope of this report, but members, is there a willingness to go back, and is there scope to go back to the other high-level project plans and look at dual naming? Because a lot of these projects are going to take years in stages to be realised.
I think it would be useful to consider te reo naming of projects and programs as we go forward. The high-level project plans for all the other locations have been completed and they're on websites and things like that. So it's definitely something that we can take on board as those plans either get refreshed or as program business cases and other, projects are brought forward.
Okay, thanks. Deputy Mayor Cashmore, would you like to speak to this? Questions?
Team, thanks very much, and thanks for keeping me informed. How engaged are the private property sector in Pukekohe and surrounds involving with the different pieces of work that's envisaged here?
Through the chair. Thank you very much, Councillor Cashmore, and also to your executive support, Christine. She's been great in guiding us. In terms of property attractiveness and interest, I think I've already had 3 emails this morning saying, look, good luck, and these are from private developers. They see Pukekohe as a highly market attractive and exciting place to put some money and investment into, and we're just holding them back, basically. Everybody's very interested in the council building at 82 Manukau Road, and by the Ed, which is an old fire station. There's a very interested party, and there are several developers who see property within the ring road as being highly prized in terms of what they might want to do. So, in a word, they are very excited for this project.
Hey, Mr. Chair. So going to Councillor Walker's question around a civic sort of hub, and we know that we have the town hall, the old council chambers next door, the historical council chambers. We had the Stevenson rooms adjacent to that. And that is directly across the road from the Ed, one of the development lots. So that what is currently a car park, and it goes into a development of several stories, could potentially be a new sort of civic hub, home for the local board and administrative services for the Franklin area.
Through the chair, the local board have, this is now creating an integration response. As you know, Panuku work with the Unlock corporate property portfolio where 82 Manukau Road, the council buildings are approved for disposal. As part of that, they're looking to relocate where the Franklin Local Board offices are located. There are obviously latest updates on that, but I guess overall the long-term advocacy of the local board would be to locate themselves within a lease within a proposed private development, and we have absolutely acknowledged that. And as those development options become sort of more detailed and refined, we are going to look to that. I don't know if we'd call that a civic hub though, but it would be the local board opportunity to have their face in the place as they choose to have it, rather than, as they say, taking away some library space or other things that attract different commentary, which is not for us to consider, but for corporate property to consider. But noting that we can absolutely consider that in the process of each development agreement.
Thank you. My last question is, you talked about 50,000 or 50,000 people leaving the Pukekohe area, or Franklin area, to work elsewhere in the city. Do you know how many people come back in to work?
No, we do not.
About half that number.
Yeah.
And we also have around 25,000 plus jobs being currently created in Pukekohe right at the moment, with private plan changes going through. One of them is actually later on the agenda here today, Mr. Chair, so there actually is a tremendous amount of growth, but I'll speak to that later on.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Well, it's moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? Councillor Walker. Your microphone, please.
Where you mention protection of the fertile volcanic soils located in a unique frost-free microclimate close to consumer markets. That needs to be captured on an ongoing basis because it puts everything together, not just the soils. So thank you very much for that.
And thank you from all of us, Richard and Brenda. This has been a tremendous body of work, but great work from local board again. Andy, Angela, your whole board, concerted effort, and it's amazing how quickly you can get things done when there's a willingness. And I emphasise the willingness, Andy. It's been tremendous. But Richard, you've brought your own flavour to this. You brought it to Henderson, and Councillors Holson and Cooper are seeing the fruit of that coming through. I love this Pukekohe area plan vision strapline, if you could say. Pukekohe is growing up with city smarts while celebrating our country hearts. Quite beautiful. And I get the reference of density in Pukekohe is growing up. At least density and some other things as well. But look.
You make the cow cry.
That would be hard. Thank you. We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare that carried. We will adjourn for lunch and we will be back at, what's the time?
Quarter past one.
We'll come back at 1:15. We've got half an hour for lunch.